Money. It's the one thing nobody wants to talk about, especially with our parents. But there's a couple different conversations we can have with our parents as they age to make sure that both their financial future and your financial future can be secured. So here it is, 5 uncomfortable conversations to have with your parents as they age. Let's dive into it. The first conversation to have with your parents is that 70% of people turning 65 these days are going to need some sort of long-term care. But 70% of people say they are unwilling to go to a nursing home. Now, obviously, long-term care means a home health aide, a family person, or potentially a nursing home. But the fact that the same amount of people who are going to need long-term care don't want to go into a nursing home when statistically they're probably going to need something similar is a huge issue. So you have to talk to your parents. They might be stubborn. They might say, hey, it's never going to happen to me. I'm not going to do it. Don't worry about it. But when it statistically does happen, you could get totally blindsided. So don't be blindsided. Have a plan. Start having these conversations about nursing homes and long-term care now. The second conversation to have with your parents is, do they believe Medicare pays for long-term care? Do they believe that Medicare, the thing we've all paid into our whole lives, covers things like home health aides or nursing homes? Because 56% of baby boomers currently believe that Medicare pays for long-term care costs, and unfortunately that's not the case at all. Now, when you're on Medicare, you can get about 100 days of skilled nursing at a facility covered, but everything past that is going to need to be covered out of your own pocket. So at this point, you got to say, parents, do you have money set aside for a nursing home or a home health aide, or are you just assuming that the government's going to pay for it? Because they could be in for a huge surprise and not have money budgeted for a long-term care scenario. Now, we're Medicare brokers, that's primarily what we do, and we can tell you with confidence that Medicare has amazing hospital and medical coverage, but unfortunately, as we talked about, it does not cover those long-term care facilities. And to add a little bit more to this, the Department of Health and Human Services is estimating that most baby boomers are going to spend about $138,000 in long-term care over the course of their lifetimes. Most people are going to need about 1.5 years of long-term care before they reach the end of their life, and that could be a huge bill, in some cases 6 figures. Now, if you think the government's going to pay for that $100,000 or $150,000, if not more, you're going to be in for a bad surprise. So again, talk to your parents. Do they expect Medicare to pay for these things, or have they budgeted properly and are going to be able to handle it? The third cost to talk with our parents is just the cost of nursing homes in general. The median cost for a nursing home in the United States currently is about $9,000 a month. It could be a little bit higher or lower depending on where you're at, but $9,000 a month is what it takes to cover somebody who needs a nursing home. Now, most people don't make $9,000 a month, much less have $9,000 surplus in their monthly budget to cover something like this. So do your parents have money set aside? Have they bought a long-term care policy? Are they able to cover these things? Because again, that's over $100,000 going out the door every single year. And again, if you haven't planned, it could be a huge surprise. Our fourth point and fourth conversation to have is 1 in 5 adults, over 50 million people, are taking care of seniors unpaid. That's right, 1 in 5 adults in America is providing unpaid elder care. And we salute these people. It's amazing that they are taking time to take care of older adults in America, but it can be a huge burden on families. Maybe you have to cut back your working hours or even potentially quit a job altogether to take care of somebody. So you have to talk with your parents now. Do they expect to go into a nursing home? Do they have that kind of money? Do they expect a home health aide, whatever it may be? Or do they expect you to take care of them and they've just never said it out loud? You want to plan this stuff out now because maybe 10 or 20 years down the line, you do have to take care of them. And you have to ask yourself, can I work my job and take care of my family? Can I also take care of my kids? What are the things that we're going to have to do to make this family keep running? You want to avoid any sibling infighting too, so it makes sense to talk to your siblings or maybe other relatives like cousins, aunts, and uncles too, because maybe you guys can split it. Because when it comes down to it, if it happens and no one's prepared and someone feels like they're doing more work and they're taking more time off work, it could lead to rifts and schisms within families. So you want to make sure that you have these conversations now so everybody understands the responsibility as it comes about. The fifth thing we're going to talk about is a little bit longer because we have to give some background. We're going to be talking about Medicaid looking back 5 years in order to claim back any income or assets that have been accrued due to Medicaid services. First, we got to talk about what Medicaid is. If you're not familiar, Medicaid is a federal and state level program that provides health services to people on the lower end of the income spectrum. In order to qualify for Medicare, you have to have little to nothing in the way of assets, and you have to have little to nothing in the way of income. The bar is very low, and it's tough for most people to get onto Medicaid. But if you do get onto Medicaid, you can get tons of emergency health services covered, and most importantly, you can get all your long-term care services covered in a Medicaid-approved long-term care facility. There is a catch, though. We talked about the income requirements necessary to get onto Medicaid. Now, a lot of people think, well, maybe I can just transfer all my income and assets to my family and then get into a Medicaid long-term care facility. It's a win-win. My kids can keep the inheritance, and I can get a long-term care facility at no cost. Well, unfortunately, you're wrong. The state has thought this through. When someone goes onto Medicaid, the state does something called a Medicaid look-back period. Basically, they look into your history to see if you've transferred any assets back as far as 5 years. That's right, 5 years back is how far they look. And to be honest, it's for a good reason. They want to make sure people aren't fraudulently getting onto Medicaid, that they're not just transferring everything away so they can get free health care from the government. But it can come at a huge cost. If you're suddenly blindsided by the need for a long-term care facility for a family member and you can't afford it month to month, what's going to happen is something called the Medicaid spend down. This is where you have all the assets that the person has accrued, any money in investments and in savings accounts and anything like that. And basically, you pay for the nursing home full price, $9,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a month. And once that's fully done, the person has run through $50,000, $100,000, $500,000 worth of assets. At that point, you can go onto Medicaid. But as you can see, everything has been blown through at that point, and there's nothing left to give. So unfortunately, in order to qualify for Medicaid, you're going to have to go through all your assets. And if you try to pull a fast one and just transfer them before you end up going onto Medicaid, the state is going to come in and put a lien on your estate. And yes, they can even claim back houses in certain cases. So it's something you have to worry about. Now, sometimes this can be alleviated with a Medicaid trust or proper estate planning or just moving assets over years before you'd potentially have to go onto Medicaid. But again, this is a conversation you have to make sure it can happen. Because if someone is expecting an inheritance, they might be shocked to find out it's completely gone just due to 2 or 3 years in a long-term care facility. And it can obviously cause huge rifts and huge issues. So you want to have these conversations now. Do we have a Medicaid trust? Do we have an estate planner? Do we have all these things necessary to have a bright financial future? So that sums up this video. Again, 5 uncomfortable conversations to have with your parents. These ones are tough now, but you want to make sure to not have to deal with this stuff later without a plan. This stuff is tough to sort through and things can run high, but it's nothing compared to the emotions that will run high when it's happening and there's been no plan put in place. Now, luckily, there's a bunch of different things you can do to alleviate these issues on top of having conversations. You can get proper estate planning and get a Medicaid trust in order to divert any funds away from the Medicaid process. You can also get a long-term care policy, and we're happy to talk to you about that, where you pay a certain amount of money per month now, and then when something happens and you need a nursing home or a home health aide, you can cash out the policy and get a monthly benefit to help pay for these services. You can also just talk to your family and say, okay, well, we're expecting you to take care of us, but we can split it up between the siblings 2 or 3 days a week each or something like that. So having that proper family planning can help as well. And you also want to talk to a retirement advisor or a financial advisor to make sure that your financial future is projected out for not just years, but decades. And they can even work in things like a long-term care policy or long-term care facility or a home health aide and still make sure there's money left over for inheritance if possible. If after having all these conversations, you still have a bunch more questions, then look no further to us at NJ Life and Health. We can help you out with Medicare, life insurance, long-term care insurance, so much more. We work with the great people at Retirable to help you with retirement planning, so we can help you there as well. And if you have any questions or anything like that, or just want to learn on your own time, check out our YouTube channel. We upload videos daily and weekly in order to give you our expertise free of charge when it comes to Medicare and life insurance and long-term care and so much more. So visit us at www.njlifeandhealth.com to schedule your free consultation for anything that I just mentioned, or call our Toms River, New Jersey office at 848-226 888-278-6897 to talk to one of our licensed Medicare and life insurance specialists. So we are happy to help you out. As always, have a good one. Please like and subscribe if you like this video, and we will talk to you soon.